Hey guys, welcome back to Grown-Ass. My name is Kathleen, a grown-ass woman, or at least that's what I like to tell men. So I am really trying to whisper, but to be loud enough also at the same time. People are asleep in the house, but I feel like I should record this tonight. And I've really not planned for this because I've been planning and recording, and deleting, planning, recording, deleting, because I felt like they were not good enough. I felt like I wasn't entirely being honest or entirely being myself. And when I started this podcast, I wanted to be as real, as naked, not literally, naked and vulnerable as possible. And so I just couldn't put something out there, something that I felt like was fake a little bit, maybe. Yeah, so that is one reason I have not uploaded anything in a while. And the other reason is because I have been out of my element for a while. I think I've been out of my element for a while now. I think that's why I couldn't record something that's of quality. And so as I am recording this, I do not have a specific thing I want to talk about on this episode. So we're just going to talk away. So I think mostly why I've been out of my element mostly is because I tested positive for COVID a little while back. It wasn't bad at all physically because I did not show like signs mingi or like sikufeel ni kama inaniweza or anything like that, but it really affected me mentally. Because I think there's a very big difference when you think you have COVID, like uko hapo tu, you've not tested, but like I probably have COVID. There's a big difference with thinking you have COVID and actually confirming that you have COVID, because everything that's a maybe now turns into a fact, I think, or your brain turns it into a fact. Like you start to think, oh, maybe I might die in like a few days, because you start to Google shit you shouldn't be Googling. And unaanza kuona all these things on the news. Like I told some people they are okay for the first couple of days and then they just fall down and die. So you're like, so I naweza kuwa tunatembea tu around the house and I fall down and die. So all these things just come rushing into your mind, and it really affects you mentally. The other thing I think is because I tested positive for COVID when I wasn't home. I am living with family friends. I've been living with family friends for, they've become like family for close to 6 months now. And the fact that I felt like I was the one who brought that disease into the house, I felt like I was responsible for whatever happened to them. Considering that there is a baby in the house, you start to feel like you brought this calamity into people's homes, and so you start to think of all this crazy, gruesome scenes that could happen at any moment, and you just can't control kwenye akili yako itafika, right? So it really affected me mentally. Yeah, but I am okay now. Everyone's okay now. And yeah, what was I doing? I was giving excuses for not uploading an episode sooner. So what do we talk about in this episode? I had been planning for a while kuendelea with the series ya friendship, but I couldn't place exactly what exactly to talk about, right? And so last we talked about whatever comes to my mind is what I'm going to say. Last we talked about being vulnerable with our friends, with our loved ones. But what about being like vulnerable with ourselves? Right? Because I think sometimes una vitu who happen. Acha niwaambie story. There was this time I was in the house alone. I was at home and I was in the house alone. People had gone to work, to school, and I was just alone in the house. And I can't remember exactly what I was doing, but I suddenly started crying. Like ugly, puffy eyes, ugly, loud cry. And I did not understand what the heck was going on in my mind or with myself until nilikuwa nalia, and then at some point I realized mbona ninalia, and it was because there's this. I actually started speaking to myself out loud, and so I was telling myself all these things like, why do you always have to like push me down when everyone else is also doing that? Why do you have to discourage me when I already feel discouraged by everything else around me? Like, why don't you support me? It was like these two versions of me having a conversation with each other. It was crazy. I think about it up to now, and I honestly cannot fully understand what went on that day. But after that, like I had like a very long conversation with myself, and I think my two selves, the one that is constantly put down by the other one, like there's this perfectionist side of me, and there's this imperfect side of me that is constantly scrutinized by the perfectionist side of me. And so both of this shit, I hope that's not a disorder. Anyways, so these two personalities of me started to have a conversation with each other, and we came to an understanding at the end of it all. And I think from that day I started to look at myself differently, or I started to become conscious with what I was telling myself, with what I was thinking of myself, right? And I think that was the very first time I had become vulnerable with myself. because this shy and afraid side of me finally decided to speak out about what it felt iko inafanyiwa na the other side of me. And then this other side of me that was constantly pushing this other side of me down, pia ikaji-explain mbona ilikuwa inafanya hivyo. And I found out it's because I was really afraid of being judged by other people, and so I would do it before anyone else could do it, so that I would kind of either feel ready before it comes, like ikikuja nikwe already najua, or like to push the creative and the fun and the outgoing side of me to not try things out, because what if you get judged? What if people criticize you? So nilikuwa already najiput into that situation, so that it was just a very weird and wrong way, but I at that time sikuwa najua ni a wrong way of like protecting myself from scrutiny from other people, right? Embarrassment, like I think I was so afraid of embarrassment and being criticized. I've been told I'm told I am a critic by so many people, but I think it comes from a very deep, afraid part of me that has perfected the skill of scrutiny and criticizing, from doing it to myself constantly, right? And so since I had that conversation with myself, it has been hard, but I've been really trying to like change the conversation I have with myself. Like no matter how I look, no matter kama saizi nimetokea so many pimples on my face, I don't know why, but since that day I'll always look at myself in the mirror and I'll always see like this beautiful and intelligent person. As much as no one else might see it, I know that I'm always going to see it. I know that I am always going to appreciate myself for who I am, right? And so I think the whole point of this story was that we need to become vulnerable with ourselves. We need to learn how to be vulnerable with ourselves, so that we can be able to be vulnerable with other people, and so that also other people can be able to be vulnerable with us. Because if we're not vulnerable with ourselves, then it means we are kind of afraid of ourselves. We are afraid of judging ourselves, right? I don't know if I'm making sense. I hope I am. And so when you become vulnerable with yourself, when you learn to become vulnerable with yourself, una learn atia kujiforgive for things that might have happened in the past, things that you might have done to yourself in the past, and you've been unable to forgive yourself. Most of the times it's because hautaki kuadmit umejihurt we mwenyewe, or like side yako yenye iko na a lot of pride haitaki kuadmit imehurt this other side of you, and this other side of you is so afraid of this other side of you that haizi speak up, imekuwa hurt. And so pushing ourselves to have that conversation with ourselves, it just helps. It ina help with healing, or at least it has with me. Ina help with healing yourself, forgiving yourself, and if you learn to do these things to yourself or with yourself, I think you're going to be able to do it with other people, because I used to judge people like a lot, and I used to do it unconsciously or subconsciously. Singe realize ninafanya hivi, right? But ni juu nilikuwa nimejifanyia so many times bila kurealize, hadi nikaanza kuextend that same energy towards other people. But when you are healed, you are also going to exhibit that energy towards people who are around you, right? And so that's really it for this episode. Let us just learn to become vulnerable with ourselves, like whatever means utatumia, if it is writing, if it is ugly sobbing and crying like I did, just do it. If you're just going to sit down by yourself in silence and have that conversation inside your head, just do it. If you're going to record yourself a video or an audio, just do it. Whatever is going to help you expose yourself to yourself, just do it, because I think it's going to make you braver than you have ever been, or braver than you could ever be ukiwa bado haujaji expose to yourself, haujajiruhusu kukua vulnerable with yourself, right? Yeah, so heal, guys. Become vulnerable with yourselves, forgive yourselves, and it's going to help you grow. I have grown from that experience, and that's the whole point of this podcast anyways, right? So yeah, I hope this episode is going to help you grow and growness in general. Yeah. So subscribe on whatever app or web you're using. Also follow this podcast on Instagram at Jonas Podcast. And yeah, you can also send me a message if you want to. I am here to listen. And if you have any experience you need to share, anything at all, unaweza nitumia voice note hapa kwa podcast, or unaweza send DM kwa Instagram, whatever you want to say. I'm going to listen to it, right? Yeah, so enough for this outro. Bye, and I love you guys so much. Bye again.